Yeah, I think we can start now. So first of all, a recap on the last chapter, the diff in diff. So the question here is the raise of minimum wage in one state, does it affect the employment rate in this state? And in this question, um, our interest is so-called the average treatment effect on the treated group. So you can see it's conditional on the treated group. And we have learned also two types of the average treatment effect in the last uh, um, in the last lecture, right? The first one is a average treatment effect. So not conditional on anything. So it's on the whole population. Okay, so it's called average treatment effect. And where is it? I think somewhere. Yeah. So we have this guy, right? It's on the whole population. And we also have another term which is called the local treatment effect, right? What is the local treatment effect? So basically, it's on the complier distribution. So we want to study the average treatment effect only on the complier distribution. And what is the complier? So mathematically, you have the instrument variable and you have your treatment variable. If your instrument variable said yes, then you do. If your instrument variable said no, then you didn't do. So it's a complier. Okay, in the we have one exercise left in the tutorial 4, and we're gonna study the how to estimate the local treatment effect. Remember, it's with IV. So with the IV in the interactive regression model, we can only identify the local treatment effect, right? And in the last chapter, the interest is this guy, APT, on the treated group. So there is a naive approach to estimate this alpha, but it doesn't work. So that's why we developed a method which is called difference in difference. And the most assumption to make the diff in diff work is called the parallel trend, right? So what does it mean? So basically, if there is no treatment in the treated group, then the time change in your treatment should be the same as the time change in the control group. So it's a key assumption to identify, to use this difference minus difference to identify the average treatment effect on the treated group. And it's quite important to understand what is parallel trend, and if it's, I mean, yeah, it's hard to argue if it's reasonable in practice, but yeah, it's a key assumption. And also there is another assumption which is not often mentioned. That is anticipation assumption. Did Jed mention that? No. So basically, um, I mean, in a simple way to describe it is to say, if you know you're gonna receive the treatment, how do you say? Yeah. So you have the pre-treatment, the pre-period before the treatment, and you have the post-period, right? So it means the treatment in the post-period doesn't affect the things in the pre-treatment. So that is no anticipation, but it's not that important. And what's essential here is this one, parallel trend. And yeah, it's as I said, it's very hard to argue if it's reasonable in practice. So then we have another type of the assumption. So it's conditional on the covariance. Somehow this assumption is more reasonable because you conditional on some observed covariance, observed factors, right? So with this assumption, I think it's easier to argue it's reasonable in practice than this original parallel trend. And if you include the queries in the different diff, I mean, now you're gonna estimate two guys as you see here. So this guy and this guy, then we can use double machine learning to estimate these two kind of like a known function. And yeah, now we have the double machine learning used in the different diff. Any question on this chapter? No? Okay. So the most important is the assumption to make it work. Okay. Mm, yeah, then we can finish the last exercise in the tutorial 4. So it's exercise 3. And then we'll go to the last tutorial. So this last exercise, if you remember the pension plan in the USA, so we're gonna study an instrument variable used in this data set. Before you finish that, for the interactive regression model, you have to use this function. And yeah, during the exam, we have a material. I don't know if you noticed that it's called summary of the functions you have to know. And I summarize, um, let's see, some packages for the IV, for the lasso, for the lasso IV, and the four models: partial linear model, interactive regression model, what function you have to know. So if you don't remember during the exam, you can check this doc. Yeah, you can. I will give you 20 minutes. Yeah, for the normally if you have a lot of covariates names, you're gonna type one by one, right? But in the final exam, we will provide you a ready one. You can just paste and copy and paste. So yeah, that's yeah. Here you gotta type one by one, or you can use some other ways. Yeah. if it's binary, use classification. But normally there is a function in the package which is formatting. Question opinion partially infinite, so it can only support continuous function.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it's it's the D is index function, and we calculate that we repeat, right? Basically for the binary, calculus is for left, so it's unlike it. It's a function. It depends on what kind of machine learning learner the package is.
also is always a type of
Fine.
like
Depends.
something optimum. Like your concept is like that's just a convention or that's
It's convention like that. I don't know. It's optional. I think there is no figure. And it also depends on your nodes. Like, if you only have 50, you do tenfold. And if it's a classification problem, I think the key point is to make sure every flow, especially for the classification problem, you want to have no imbalance calculation. So you can have up error flaw.
so you don't have like all in the zeros.
Yeah, I mean, theory it doesn't make sense, right? For the estimation.
It's only work out so we know that has to
Yeah.
it
doesn't
do
do it.
1 month.
You need 5 fast. If you have a large sample size, 10 fast is okay. This one? This one. explanation. So it's average. First says first equals to what divided by 4. This means everything can use how should we do the Shall we go through the exercise together? Yeah. So in the last exercise, we want to study still the 401k plan. We want to study if the participation of the plan will affect your net asset, and we include an instrument variable, which is if you are eligible to this plan. So what is the complier here? The complier is your IV says yes, you do. Your IV says no, you don't do. So in this question, the IV is if you are eligible to this plan, and the treatment is whether you participate this plan, right? So the complier population here is if you are eligible to this plan, you will participate the plan, right? If you are not, you won't participate the plan. So we our goal is to estimate the average treatment effect on this population, not on the whole population. So the first question is give a formula of the local treatment effect and what's your interpretation. And basically, I mean, if you have a similar question in the final exam, I mean, so the answer should be like this one. You give a formula of what is a local treatment effect, and we expect in this question, we expect you can write down this guy, so it's conditional on the compliant population. Then you use if you participate in the plan, right? What's your net asset and minus the situation where you haven't. Right? So it's also the interpretation of this local average treatment effect. Okay.
Can we just write conditional effect or conditional expectation of? Because I don't know how to do the E on the computer.
Yeah, you just write E. I mean, the final exam, you can write down in Word, or you can write down in the R script. Is that your question?
No, but just the mathematical notation of the special E, I don't know.
Yeah, just a capital E. Yeah, capital E is okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We will recognize what you wanna express. Okay, is this clear for the local treatment effect? For example, if we have a question for the average treatment effect on the treated group, then you write down the formulation. No, write down the formula, right? But in the average treatment effect on the treated group, so we have two periods. But here it's a pure cross-section data, right? Is this clear? Okay. The most important is to relate it to the specific question. What is y here? The y is the net effect of the participants, right? You can't say y I1, y0. We wanna what is y1, what is y0. Okay. Yeah, the second one. So for this double machine learning with 4 different models, partial linear model with IV or interactive regression model. So the process are quite similar. You create a data set using double machine learning data, right? And you specify what are the learners for these conditional expectations. And the last step is which model you want to use, and then you choose a function. So the second one is to create a data set with an IV. So then in the data set, you should have your outcome, your treatment, your controls, and your ID. So basically in this pension, we already have many variable names, right? Yeah, quite a lot. And for the outcome, what we are interested is this net asset. For the treatment is the participation of the plan. The instrument variable is whether you are eligible to this plan, and you have several controls. And then you create these data sets. Okay, you can check if we have a correct data set. Yeah. Then the next question is to say specify some learners in this model. So before you specify the learners, you gotta figure out which type is this variable. For the outcome, it's continuous, right? So you use a regression. If you use random forest, you use a regression type. And if the variable is binary, you use classification random forest. Okay. So in this case, the y net asset is continuous, right? So the learner G, we use a regression random forest. And for the IV, if you are eligible, so it's a binary. It's binary. You use a classification random forest. Same for the treatment variable. If you participate, so it's also a binary, and use a classification random forest. And then we go to the last question to estimate this model. So this model is interactive regression model with an IV, right? And yeah, we use this function. Once again, in the material we summarize for which model, which function you have to use. The interactive regression IV model, you use this one, IIVM. Okay. Now in this model, quite similar. You give the data set you created before. The learners for the G function, learners for the M function. So basically, this is conditional expectation in the outcome equation. This is in the treatment equation. This is in the IV equation. And you specify what is the score here. So you can only identify the local treatment effect in this model, right? And yeah, how many folds you're gonna use here. So it's 5. And yeah, it says 5. Then we do 5. And we fit this model. Gonna take some time. Any question on this exercise? Yes. Yeah.
only do the data.
You only do the data on the.
If we're only looking at files.
Because in this model, we can only identify these conditional, this average treatment effect on the compliant population. We cannot identify something else. No, it is clear to you. Yeah, we can have a look at back at the slides. I think chapter 5. So in this model, the only thing you can identify is this guy. Okay. In this interactive regression model is IB. The only thing you can identify is this guy. Yeah, then we can see the result. Yeah, it's a significant difference, right? It's quite, yeah, it's quite significant. So that means for the compliant population, if you participate in the plan, it does affect your net asset, right? So if you are born in the USA, you're definitely gonna find a company which can provide this plan. Huh? Is this clear to everyone? Okay. So yeah, I can wrap here for these. For the last maybe 3 lectures, we have used different functions to estimate different models, all using the double machine learning methods. So the steps are quite similar. Always remember, create a dataset first, then specify the learners. For the learners, you first figure out which type are these variables, whether they are continuous or not. Okay, and the last step is to find the proper function corresponding to this model. Okay, there is no function for all the models. The different model means different function you have to use. Yeah, okay. And one thing for the local treatment effect, so in this function you have to specify the score. And the same thing in the interactive regression model, as we can see in the exercise 2. For the interactive regression model, what you identify the average treatment effect, so you specify the score is ATE. Okay. Yeah, now you can move on to the last tutorial. It's about using the double machine learning in the diff-in-diff. Yeah, first look at the summary of this exercise. So we want to say if the increase of the minimum wage will affect the employment rate. So some counties have increased their minimum wage some time point, maybe let's say at the beginning of 2004, and yeah, we treat 1 year before the 2003 at the pre-treatment period, and the 2004 is the post-treatment period. So basically, we compare the difference between these 2 periods, okay, to see if the increase of minimum wage, if it actually affects the employment rate in your county. There are two files in the tutorial 5, which you have to download. This is the data, and this is the function you have to use. The two things you have to download. Okay.
Yeah, that was
Yes, also function.
with Doris.
I would like. Convert these days. So if you cannot, uh, you may have the problem when you run this function. You get a problem set some issue with the data with the G. If you have this problem, the thing you have to do is to convert this type as a numerical type. And use this one if you have the problem. When you're running the following function, you first convert this G into the numerical type, and then you run this the function. Okay, I think the problem is because you download the CSV and you import in the CSV. Somehow, some formats of the values may change. So you're gonna change it back to a numeric type. Okay. Yeah. Download it. In it. Delete it. Choose files. Sorry. The Toledo 2 files. This one is to specify the double machine learning method, because in the package, it's the use of double machine learning is not supported by the package. We're gonna make up another function, and yeah, it's in here. And Harry, you have plenty of time, and we will have like maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. Okay.
Ja, so just the the
Doesn't matter. It's in data. Normally we job, but I mean with some methods it can also code basic data. But the back was but I mean normally if we have plenty of observations, we can just
Yeah. The brain has two. Yeah. The brain, it was not question or like lesson most, but why would you be lesson with a opinion? But the class of this, and then go like the previous meeting, the probably, and of course, just the patient that was right? Yeah. If it's really just maybe it's in with him, people. So, I think it's still point that maybe
I mean, you can try the random bullets. Basically, it's just an exercise.
they will,
Yeah, I think in practice, maybe Laonia is more important
yeah,
because in this case, the Cavalry surroundings is really for
the whole thing uses by the way.
yeah. If you have very small travels, I think the best, the better one is running forest because you can have some lonely areas. I mean, you have many Cavalry, 100, maybe 50. So I think maybe lots is better because you. If you use random forest, use many Canaries, as I mentioned before.
Very good. With this, once if you just the place, very literally,
Yeah.
it wasn't which didn't almost the same as you see the picture and look with this, with this, it's like the way if you like this, um, I had also that movie was to see if we could see what we do it like doing food
Yeah,
very
basically it should be the same. That's what the idea. I don't know. For the function in the moment, if you run down machinery with the function, or you use allows to effects, run step by step, that should be the same.
but maybe not level.
What's the difficult? I think typically it's the same. So the code behind this function, the author also used the allows to effect step by step. So I mean, the way is to, I mean, you cannot, let's say the function in the linear model, you have to estimate and the residual first, right? If you estimate the residual, the only way to do it is to run a loss of regression. I mean, if you consider the loss of time. So the problem is if you run loss of effect or you run a double PTOR, if the results are the base, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, actually, if you just do a loss or click on that thing and then
it should be, definitely should be the same. Yeah.
but it was not really a question. When you do this, then it has, the output. This one. It might be just
Some seed.
yeah,
Is
because I have thousands and solutions of some yeah, this was mine.
yes, it's
But
work.
then I run the same thing, having a solution for just the same thing. Yeah, but it's
Yeah, if you clear the environment and
Yeah.
not want to leak any. Yeah. I mean, only thing you care about is the significant level. I mean, the magnitude doesn't matter. Mine. No, yeah, let's get arrow. Then left one and one. And then get six. This one. Oh, really good that. And first it is it's not it's just complete. It's not significant that very exciting fact. Not significant because we don't spiral, right? Very true. Yeah, and yeah. I think it's yes, cooking is 11 because it's carbohydrate. It's 95% vegetable. So it doesn't. So I mean, it's not about the so actually it's wild. It could be 2%, but you was all right. It only when 95% is right. You have to also see the 5%. So we have on so we have on very time average is yeah, this is the yeah, those the estimate based on this one, estimation more it is 5% significant possibly significant conclusion. Things over yeah, 100%. If you don't get the same result, it doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah. You can change the seed as wish and as what you want.
Is it normal that there's no treatment plans?
I mean, this function, this function is for multiple time period, multiple time period. It's just a basically solution. It was so yeah, it's just it's the language that was so it's one of the photo one of the one of the books was the photo just the process. Yeah. Yes, I mean that's the Chinese. Very close together, right? Yeah, just where the I mean the post but a different mode. Yeah. 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 So in this even I mean the one John is significant that we have the slide right. We want it lots of times we see that we're fine. Data. Shall we go through together? And then we have time for Q&A. Yeah. So the problem is to study the effect of the minimum wage increase on the employment rate, and we have several counties, and we have a so in the DID you have to know what is pre-treatment period and what is post-treatment period. So the idea of the DID is to compare the difference in the post yeah, it's yeah. So let's recap this one. So the basic is to say the time differences. So the first line, the time differences in the treated group. So that means in the post-treatment period, right? So this t equals 2 means the post-treatment period. And minus the time differences also in the control group. So the one which hadn't received the treatment. And also in the post-treatment period. And we compare the two differences, right? Yeah. Then we include some covariates. So with covariates, to make ID work, we need what? We need the conditional parallel trend assumption, right? And yeah, we also have ID. So in the DID, you have to know the ID, the time, if you are treated or not, and the variable G, which means so if you receive the treatment, the G, then the G is the time. If you are not never received the treatment, then the G is always 0. So in the function to estimate the ATT use definitive, we have to specify these 4 variables. It's necessary. So in the definitive, we have these 4 packages. And I mean, if you receive any definitive problem or question in the final exam, you will use the same function here. So always remember to solve this function to apply the double machine learning in the DID. Okay, once again, if you have any DID question in the final exam, do not forget to solve this function. So the goal is to include the covariates, and we got
the function we
provided.
Yeah,
you get download. Yeah, you download the material and you solve the problem. Yeah. So with the covariates, we have to estimate these 2 conditional expectation. Yeah, it's a known function. So we use the some machine learning methods. Okay. And the first question is under which assumption can we use DID? So this is the definitive with covariates. So which assumption are more reasonable? So if you, let's say, you control some factors, right? You fix some x, and then you set if the counties have never increased the minimum wage, then the difference is in the time differences in the employment rate should be the same as what? As the one which never received the treatment, right? So, but it's a conditional on some covariates. Okay. Let's see. So if you fix some covariates, let's say maybe the working hours or something, and if there is no county had raised the minimum range, then the employment changes between the two time periods in the treatment group should be the same in the control group, right? So for this assumption, you're gonna say you fix some other covariates, some other characteristics. And the second question is what is the definition of the ATET? And under this conditional DID assumption, how do you identify these ATET and give a formula of it? So basically, the clear way to answer this one is to say, the definition for this one is what is conditional on the treated group. So the DI2, equals 1 means the group which received the treatment. So it's conditional on the treated group. And you compare this group, you compare the employment rate in the situation they have received the treatment minus the 1 if they hadn't received the treatment. Okay? So you compare these two differences that's on the treatment on the treated group. So it's the definition of the ATET. And with this parallel trend assumption, then the alpha can be estimated using this guy. Okay, so you use the average treatment differences of the employment rate and minus the average control differences of the teenager employment rate. Oh, sorry, Sam. Yeah, this one should be conditional X. There is a typo in the answer because we consider the conditional parallel trend assumption, so it should be conditional on the X. I'll update a new version of this solution. It is clear. Is this assumption clear to everyone? So basically, you are interested. Let me repeat again. You are interested in this guy, right? And how do you estimate this guy? So if you take the average of this guy on the treatment group and minus the average of this guy on the treated group, it doesn't work. Okay, because there are some other factors which can affect the employment rate, and we need this parallel trend. And with the parallel trend, then we can use this guy. So this guy basically equals to this guy if you have the conditional, if you have these parallel trend assumption satisfied. Okay. If you are interested, I suggest you can look at this chapter. So in this equation, you will clearly see this is the treatment effect, right? With the parallel trend assumption, some calculation in the middle, and then we'll see finally this guy equals to this guy. Okay, if you're interested, you can look at this equation. And the next question is to specify the learners. So it's basically very simple. You just copy paste the code. And then the question D says, it basically put the learners into the function. And we get the estimation method for the diff and diff. And the last question is to use this function ATTGT to get the DID estimate. So we source the function, and in this case, the treatment is a binary, right? In the DID, it's a binary, so we use the classification random forest. But for the outcome, it's the employment rate, so it's continuous. So we use the regression type of the random forest, and then we specify the double machine learning method for this function, and we run this DID function. So once again, in this function, you have to specify what is your outcome, what is your year, what is your ID, and what is the G. Once again, the G is if you receive the treatment. G is the first time when you receive the treatment. So in this case, it's 2004, right? Otherwise, if you never received the treatment, the G is always 0. So the 4 variables or 4 arguments are necessarily to be specified. And then for the formula, we want to include some covariates, and we include the region, and we include these covariates, which were collected before the treatment, right? In the DID, you can only include some covariates before the treatment, okay? And you specify what is the learners, and you get the DID estimates. So
choose your number of votes.
So in this one, so the default is 5. I set it as 5. Yeah. If you want to change, you can just change it here. So we can now interpret this result. We can first look at the 95% confidence interval, and it covers 0, right? So it means it's not, at least we can say it's not 5% significant, right? But for the 10% or 20% of some other, we don't know. It only provides the 95% confidence interval, and it's not significant. And then we can interpret the magnitude, it's quite small, right? So that we could say that the increase of the minimum wage doesn't affect the employment rate in the treated group a lot. And then the next question is to change another learners. We then use the Lasso to see if the results have significant changes, and again specify the machine learning methods, specify these estimation method, and we do the same thing. The only difference is this one. The estimate method becomes Lasso, and we run again, and yeah, in this case we can see it's 5% significant, right? But this guy, the right value of this interval is quite close to 0, right? But based on this estimate, we can say, oh, yeah, maybe it's 5% significant, and actually the average treatment effect is not too small by using the Lasso method. Okay. Yeah, any question on this exercise? Is this clear to everyone? How to answer these questions? Is it clear? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we still have 20 minutes left. Then we can do a Q&A session. If you have any question, you can raise your hand. I mean, any question. Yeah. It's the default choice is split. So it's you can delete this line. Yeah, the default is false. In the exam, if we don't say anything, you have to specify. Do not specify. Okay. Always use the default choice. And another thing is, I mean, if you accidentally specify something, like, yeah, we correct your exam by ourselves, so we can. Our goal is to see if you understand the question, and if you can, I mean, use if you can code correctly. So if you accidentally specify something else, it doesn't matter. It won't affect your final score. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry, we are very kind. Okay. In the final exam.
Everything is recorded and no paper.
And for the programming code, use R, but for the solution, you can use Word, you can use script, you can use anyone you like.
No paper.
No paper.
Paper,
I don't know. I have to check with the chat, but I think it's possible.
There's not that it's questions written. We have to.
Chat told me
No? Okay. Then no. I don't know. Yeah. What? Definitely in the final exam, no, it's not that easy. I mean, definitely will have some questions. I mean, which are different from the exercises, but all the questions are included in the lectures and the lab sessions. I mean, yeah, sometimes I told you something, you have to pay attention to something, to this one, to this one. Yeah, maybe we don't have the question in the exercise, but in the final exam, you don't know, and yeah, I also don't know. Right? You're gonna prepare. I mean, yeah, prepare sufficiently. That's um yeah. So the key or the essential is and you understand every tutorial and the slides. I would say it will be enough. Is this clear? Yeah, I couldn't say more, you know. Yeah, but yeah, run all these codes from the beginning, from tutorial 1 until the last tutorial, and read every slide of the lecture. Then it'll be fine. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
Other questions? The webcams are looking on slides on
Mainly from the slide. Yeah. I would say I don't know. It's mainly from the slide.
questions.
Yes, open book. Yeah, look at the announcement. Yeah, you can bring any material mentioned by this announcement. So let me see. Uh, Yeah, you can bring any paper document. Yeah, to do it. Yeah, if you want to bring the book, it's also doable, but it costs a lot to carry it. Yeah. You can print them out. Not digitally. Yeah, it's in the pen exam, you can't see any digital material, but you can bring out all of them. Okay? Yeah. In the papers, you require something specific like folder or some courses they require a folder. And from my experience of last year, we don't care a lot about this one. You know, yeah, yeah. It's very casual. No worry about the exam. Yeah, I have to say that. Yeah, we only care about whether you really understand uh, what we have taught and some other practical stuff. I mean, some formats, some matter doesn't. It doesn't matter. Okay.
So for the questions that are not coding, we can write them in the same script as where we write our code.
Yeah, yeah. So you can do this, like, for example, in this last question, right? You have the code and you can answer. We find it is significant at 5% level, and it's a decrease. We find if you raise the minimum wage, the employment rate decrease by this number. Right, okay. Always based on the estimate to interpret your result.
So it's like you can work together. Or
I mean, if you so in a research paper, even you are solo,
okay.
you use we sometimes. I mean, that yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe yeah.
I just wanted to ask if this time, like we have 2 hours. You were reading early or?
Uh, One thing I want to mention that because I took this exam also in my first year, so I would say it's quite intense. I don't really have too much time left. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. That's it can be normally finished in the given time. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you just use the simplest way you think. So let's say in the R script, you just say EYIT. Maybe use use this one, uh, YIT, like this one, so we can understand. Or in the Word, you don't do the simplest way. In the Word, you can yeah the same. Yeah, YIT. Yeah. As long as we can understand. Uh, you just copy paste. If you uh, yeah, it would be a simple way. Yeah, you could write all the code and you copy paste. as the appendix in your like solution PDF, something like this. Is it clear? Yeah, I will show you in maybe in the if I use a word, right, for every question. That's question 1A, okay, and blah blah blah. We find the significant level is what and the magnitude. I mean, it's a simple way to say the magnitude is what, and then it's done. And you can you have to attach all your code at the last part of your solution. So let's say you finish all the questions, right? And you have a like a solution code like this one, and you copy and you attach. I don't think you have to compile this code because in your answer you mentioned the magnitude and the significant level, right? We can based on this we can give you the score. Yeah, but yeah. Attach your code at the last part of your solution.
That's only if you do it in Word.
Yeah, I do see some students from last year they use R script, and it's very with R script it would be easier. Let's say you do the format like this one, right? Question 1 and 2A. If you have to like write down a formula, you say something, formula, say something, and no, it's not say good. Yeah. Let me check. Yeah, I can show you. So yeah. So yeah, you see it's a word format, all right? You answer the questions, question 1, question 2. Everyone can see that? Yeah, you answer these questions. Oh, this, and you also, yeah, sorry, I'm wrong. Yeah, in these words, you only include your answers, but you submit your code as well. So this is a code for the exam. I can also find one use R script. Yeah. So it's only this this student only provided the R script, and we can see how it works. Yeah, it's too slow. Yeah. So if you use a pure R script like this, so like exam package, right? And you answer these question. Let's say exercise 1A. Yeah. Yeah, and here is not done. Yeah. So this, I don't know. Depends on you. Yeah. which one you find is the most suitable, you can leave them.
You can write it as comments.
Yeah, you can, in the output, you can comment on these answer, yeah. Which one? Yeah. Oh, I see. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You can get access to Toledo. Yeah, you don't have to print out. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. With extra names. Yes. Yeah. You saved a lot of money on them. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. For the format of the solution, is this cleared? Yeah. Okay. I don't think last year I didn't see any Makzang. I couldn't remember. I mean, most people they use words or R scripts. Okay. Yeah. I personally, I think this one is more clean. This one is more efficient. Yeah. This one is more efficient and maybe quicker. Okay, because yeah, you can choose either you want.
So if there is an open question, we one of the uh, that's the at the below. To the open question or the text that to be removed.
Ah,
That's what I asked for the lockdown with remote.
Yeah.
And right
yeah. Not necessary. You can without commenting this one. You can just leave them like this one. It's also okay. Yeah.
but if I run the code
If you want to run the code, yeah. If you want to run the code, you're gonna comment all of them out. These text out. Is it clear?
yes. So I have to put it green because otherwise the code wouldn't work.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we can. If you don't put a comments, I mean, we can selectively run the code. So I mean, we are fine with that. Neural network. Yes, he told you it's yeah. It wouldn't be in the exam. I should be responsible for what I said. I couldn't say more. Yeah. Other question. Yeah. There is another Q&A in June. No, it will be Jack post the Q&A session. So you will get more like official suggestions. Yeah. Rather, yeah. Good luck with your final exams. Okay. Yeah.